Welcome. My name is Abby. I'm so glad that you joined me today. I have a great workshop planned just for you, and I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. First, I'm going to share my screen with you. Here we go. Now, screen sharing is a function of Zoom. So, whenever you want to share your screen, keep that in mind. And thanks for bearing with me. I did just start using PowerPoint not too long ago. And one of the lovely and most notable features of PowerPoint is that I'm able to use the captioning option, which I absolutely love. All right, well, thank you again for joining me. Today we're going to talk about iPad basics and tips. And I would love to know, how long have you had your iPad for? Was it a gift? Is it still in the box? If so, now is the time to take it out. And does your iPad have a home button or not? That helps me know more specifically how I can help you navigate around your iPad. Now, if this is your first time joining me, I am so glad that you made it. I am the founder of Senior Savvy, which provides tech support for seniors. And I also offer workshops at different communities around the country. Today, we're going to talk about an overview of your iPad. We'll discuss the gestures as well as some must-know tips and some tricks. So let's go ahead and walk through your iPad. I love a good diagram. And so many of our modern devices do not come with an owner's manual. Well, I like to break down exactly what every button and feature is. And so while I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this right now, I do want to point out a couple of notable features here. Now, number two is where your notifications and your status of your iPad is. And so it's always a good idea to keep your eye on that in the event that you're not connected to Wi-Fi. That's where you would check that out. Number three, that's your sleep wake button. And the sleep wake button is also your power on and off. So when you hold that button in for about 5 seconds, it gives you the option to power your device on and off. And that's right here up at the top. Let's talk about some gestures. Now, one of my clients will say, should I punch it? Should I punch here? And no, I don't want you to punch there anymore. What I want you to do is to learn to tap. That's the right terminology. You do a tap. You can also swipe, and the swipe action is quickly across your screen. You can drag from the bottom or from the top down. And then you can also zoom by pinching your fingers in and out. Some notable features here that I want to bring to your attention are, again, the status bar, which we're going to dive into a little bit more, as well as your apps that are on your home screen. So if no one's told you before, let me tell you, app is an abbreviation for application. It's a mobile application. And it's just abbreviated because instead of it being on a device that doesn't move like a computer, it's mobile. And so it's abbreviated to app. You also, number four, has something called a screen indicator, which will let you know if there are more screens beyond that first one. The icons that are down at the bottom, those applications, they're in your dock, and they are your most frequently used applications. Let's talk about that all-important status bar, shall we? So I want to bring your attention to some status icons that let you know what's happening behind the scenes in your iPad. So, number one, that's your Wi Fi signal. And I think by now you know what that is. But it's a really good idea to keep your eye out for it if you're not receiving email, or if you're not getting any text messages, or if you're unable to get onto the internet. Number two is airplane mode. And once in a while, I'll have a client who has accidentally placed their device in airplane mode, and that will also prevent any incoming signals. Now, number three is for portrait orientation lock. And what that does is it prevents your iPad from flip-flopping that screen view. So you may like it just to be in a portrait view, but if you're reading a book on your Kindle, maybe you want that to be in the landscape view. Number five, that's do not disturb. And if you happen to see that half moon there, you may have accidentally placed your iPad in a do not disturb mode, which would mean that you wouldn't be receiving any notifications, sounds, buzzes, beeps, anything like that, because you've opted not to be disturbed. When it comes to your iPad keyboard, there are a couple features here I want to point out to you. Number four is for dictation. That's a little microphone there. And when you tap that, that activates the dictation feature within your device. And number five tells you that you can hide that keyboard from popping up. With your iPad, as with your other devices, I always want to recommend that you put a bright case on there, okay, with bumpers around the outside. So in the event that you dent it or you bang it on its sides, the bumpers are going to protect the edges. I always want to recommend that you go for a bright colored case. Instead of going for something chic, go bright. Our brains associate color with memory. And when you're looking for something, it's so much easier to look for something that's red, for instance, than a dark color like black. I also want to recommend that you purchase a case that has a stand on it. This way, it can be propped up independently of you having to rest it against a coffee cup or something. And then finally, I always recommend that you put a glass screen protector on the front of your device. Now, I picked these up at Amazon. They're usually about $10 for two. And this will definitely protect your screen in the event that you should bang it or scratch it. It's happened to me, and this is a lot less expensive to purchase than replacing your whole iPad or just the screen. It's probably a $90 savings, maybe even a $100 savings right there. Now let's talk about ways that you can adjust your settings so that they fit you, all right? And we'll talk about apps, and we'll also talk about owning your iPad. I want you to own it, which means it's a reflection of how you want it to look and feel. So, number one here is within your settings. And the settings app contains all of your preferences of how you want your device to look and feel. So the first one is your Apple ID. You got to know what your Apple ID is. It serves as your driver's license on your device. And when you want to download apps from the App Store, you will need to know what your Apple ID is, and it will always be listed right up there. It's usually your best email address. Number two is the Wi-Fi, and get to know your Wi-Fi settings. Get to know your Wi-Fi password. Have it written down because you need to know that you're connected to the Wi-Fi in order to go onto the internet. Number three is notifications. Now, these are really pesky because the default for all of your application notifications is turned on, which means you're going to get a little pop up, a little ding, a little bell for every news flash, every new song, every Facebook photo that you don't want to know about. And so you want to go in there and you want to toggle off the ones that you don't want to be disturbed with. Now, I typically have three, just three out of maybe 25 turned on. And those are my text messages, as well as my email and FaceTime notifications. Okay. Number four, I just love. This one is display and brightness. And I really want to encourage you here to go dark. All right, go to the dark side. Go and turn on that dark mode, because when you do that, it allows uh, visual, uh, uh, a, an offset of visual fatigue. And I will tell you that I have worked on both the light and the dark. And every time I'm working within a light mode, whether it's in Word or it's on a computer or on a laptop, I feel this visual fatigue come on. But when it's in the dark mode, I'm emitting less bright light emitting energy, and it's easier on my eyes. The other thing I want to encourage you to do is go bigger. All right. This used to be called standard in Zoom. So if you're not familiar with that, it's right below display and brightness in your settings. And now it's called home screen and dock. And then I want you to go from more, which is the standard default setting, so you get more on a page, to bigger, which just kind of supersizes the size of your apps, which makes it easier for you to see. Let's talk about the App Store. The App Store is where you're going to journey to look for new applications so that you can customize your iPad. Again, you will need to know what your Apple ID is. Now, when I go to the App Store, I always have an intention in mind. And so I just go right to number one, where that magnifying glass is, and I search for what I'm looking for, because there is a whole bunch of stuff there, not even interested in. So number one, I go to search. And then let's say I'm looking up a new weather app. I want to look at the reviews and see how many people liked this app and what the reviews were. And then number three, when I'm ready to download the app, I'm going to tap on Get to get that app or install the app. Here are some notable apps that my clients love, and I'm just going to point out a couple of them. Well, Hoopla is an app that you use with your library card. And so if you're a huge library fan, I am, and you like to check out books and movies and DVDs and CDs, well, you can do this with Hoopla, and it streams right on your device. Another one, Pillboxy, will remind you when to take your medications. Now let's talk about owning your device. And I like to think of it like this, okay? I want you to get into the mode here where you're going to start to personalize what you see on your home screen, okay? Just as if you were going to get into a car, okay? And this became your new car. You're going to sit in there and you're going to make a little adjustment to the mirrors, right? You're going to adjust the rear view mirror. You're going to adjust the seat so that it fits you perfectly. If there's something in that car that you don't like, maybe it's seat covers, maybe it's a steering wheel cover setting, you change that, right? And so in the same way, I want you to look at the apps that are on your home screen and make those changes. This is your iPad, and this is how you own it. So the first thing I want you to do is look at all those apps. All right, your iPad comes pre-bundled with a ton of things you will never use. I won't use them either, but they're there, and you don't have to keep them there. Okay, just like you don't have to keep the radio on that station you're not going to listen to. So what I want you to do is a long press on the app. When you do that, this menu will come up, okay? And that means that you pressed long on it. And then from there, you can edit your home screen. You can also remove apps. Now, I don't want you to worry about getting rid of something you might want again because you can easily get it back from the App Store. So go ahead right now and rearrange the furniture, right? This is your iPad. So rearrange it, move them around to where you can find them. If there's one that's on another screen, hold your finger down on it and drag it to the edge and move it to where you want it to be. Now I have a couple of tips here for finessing your iPad. And the first one is multitasking. Now, I bet you're thinking, I'm retired. Why do I need to multitask? Well, this is why you want to know how to use this skill. Let's say you're writing an email and you want to then check your calendar app to see if you're available to meet with your friend on the particular day. You're going to double tap that home button, and that's going to take you to your last open app. Okay, so you can open up one app, you can multitask by either swiping up if you don't have a home button, or double tap the home button. It will take you back to that email. So you can go from the calendar to the email to another app, all by multitasking. Another one here that has been a game changer for me is the spotlight search. And so when you realize and figure out how to search for anything on your device, it is immensely helpful. And how you do this is you swipe down. You just do a little swipe down from the top. And that brings up this search field, which then allows you to search for anything, whether it's CPK, CVS, or your Dr. Cecil. You can search for anything here, and it's going to look through everything on your device. Another tip here is to access your control center. Now, your control center can be both a nuisance if you don't know why it's popping up, and it can also be so convenient for you when you know that you can swipe down from the top to access some of your regularly used settings like volume control and brightness. It's a breeze to access them. So I want you to practice that swipe down mode from the top of your screen to bring down your control center. I also have some tips here for composing a text within your iPad, which is much easier to do because it's larger than your iPhone. And I want to point out the dictation here as well. Earlier, I mentioned it on your keyboard. Well, it's here in your text message as well. And it's down there at the bottom, number 11. And when you want to start dictating messages, rather than tip, tap, tap, tapping them, you can do that. And I also want to bring to your attention when you are in FaceTime, you can drag your own screen image to a different corner. It doesn't have to be in the top right. Additionally, you can tap that number 3 for your camera and take a photo while you're in a FaceTime video. Now, I want to encourage you also to be aware of your position. And I always recommend that you lift up your iPad so that you're at eye level of the camera when you're in a FaceTime chat. Finally, I always want to encourage you to keep your device up to date. And this is how you know something needs to be done. You'll see a little red badge in the settings app, which will be telling you, woohoo, you need to check your engine. There's something that needs to be done there. And so even just like if you got into your car and the check engine light came on, you know you'd have to go take care of that. Well, I want you to look at it the same way and follow through on those software updates. Well, I would love to know if you have any questions at all. And go ahead and reach out to me. Okay. I am here for you. My door's always open. It has been a pleasure to join you today. Thank you.